It was a cold January night in 1936. Inside Sandringham Palace, the lights burned low and the empire's heartbeat began to fade. King George V, the man who had guided Britain through war, crisis and change, lay weak, his final moments approaching. The royal doctors stood by, knowing the king's suffering had stretched beyond mercy. In the quiet of that room, a decision was made. One history would whisper about for generations. A final injection. Morphine and cocaine given not to kill, but to let a weary monarch sleep. As dawn broke over England, the news spread across the world. The king was dead. The House of Windsor had lost its founder, and an era of duty, discipline, and devotion came to an end. When King George V ascended the throne in 1910, the British Empire stood at the height of its power, spanning continents and ruling over hundreds of millions of people. Yet beneath the glittering facade of empire, change was brewing. Social unrest, political reforms, and the stirrings of nationalism in faraway colonies all signaled that the world was shifting. George V was not the flamboyant monarch his father, Edward VII, had been. He was quiet, disciplined, and deeply rooted in a sense of duty. Alongside him stood Queen Mary, a woman of regal composure, unwavering loyalty, and an unshakable belief in the institution of monarchy. Together, they would become the steady heart of the royal family during one of the most turbulent periods in British history. Their partnership was built on a shared understanding that the monarchy's survival depended on adaptation, humility, and service, rather than extravagance or privilege. From the beginning of his reign, George understood that public trust was the monarchy's greatest asset. His approach was simple but profound. He sought to bring the crown closer to the people, to embody stability in a rapidly changing world. As Europe descended into war in 1914, King George V faced the most defining test of his reign. The First World War did not only threaten his empire, it also tested his family's very identity. The British royal family was of German descent, tied by blood to many of the monarchs Britain now fought against. Anti-German sentiments swept through the nation, and the royal family's German heritage became a source of suspicion and resentment. Newspapers mocked their German names, and the public began to question the loyalty of their own king. George understood the danger. He knew that symbols mattered, that names carried power. So in 1917, with a single decree, he changed the royal house's name from the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to the House of Windsor, a name rooted in English heritage, strength, and national pride. It was more than a political move. It was an act of reinvention. The monarchy was reborn, its image transformed to align with the spirit of the people it served. Behind the king's decisions was the influence of Queen Mary, whose quiet strength became a cornerstone of royal dignity. She possessed a deep sense of tradition, but she also understood the importance of perception. Her life was a constant balance between the weight of royal expectations and the need to appear relatable and devoted. During the war, she visited hospitals, comforted wounded soldiers, and supported families who had lost everything. Her calm presence reassured the nation that the royal family stood with them, not above them. She was known to write personal letters to bereaved mothers and to offer words of comfort to widows. To the public, she embodied compassion and duty. To the king, she was an anchor, a reminder that leadership was not about privilege, but about example. King George's reign marked a subtle but profound transformation in how the monarchy interacted with the people. He was not a visionary reformer, but he was a man of steadfast discipline. His insistence on moral integrity and responsibility gave the monarchy a sense of purpose that transcended ceremony. During the war, he visited the front lines, stood among his soldiers, and shared in their suffering. The sight of their king, dressed in military uniform and walking through trenches, became a symbol of unity. He understood that respect could not be demanded, it had to be earned. His actions during the war reinforced the bond between the crown and the nation, forging a legacy of service that would define the modern monarchy. The creation of the House of Windsor symbolized more than a name change. It was the beginning of a new royal identity, one rooted in British pride, national unity, and emotional connection with the public. George and Mary knew that monarchy was not immune to change. It had to evolve to survive. They embraced the idea that tradition could coexist with progress, that the crown's power lay not in politics, but in presence. Their reign bridged two worlds, the age of empire and the dawn of a modern democratic Britain. Through humility, duty, and unshakable resolve, they redefined what it meant to be royal in the 20th century. Their legacy was not carved in stone or sealed in opulence. It was built in the quiet moments of resilience, in the choices that preserved the crown when it could have crumbled. King George V and Queen Mary became symbols of endurance, of continuity amid chaos. In an age when monarchies across Europe were collapsing, they stood firm, not because of divine right, but because of devotion to their people. Their leadership during those uncertain years laid the foundation for the stability that the House of Windsor continues to represent today. Queen Mary's influence on the monarchy extended far beyond the public eye, shaping not only the image of the royal family, but also the moral core on which its future would depend. She was a woman raised in modest circumstances compared to the grandeur of the courts she later entered, and this background gave her a unique appreciation for discipline, frugality, and order. These qualities became the foundation of her role as queen. While the world admired her elegance, jewels, and flawless poise, those close to her understood that her true power lay in her unwavering sense of responsibility. She believed that royalty was not a privilege, but a duty, one that required constant vigilance, restraint, and humility. In an age when monarchies across Europe were losing relevance, Mary worked tirelessly to ensure that the British crown remained not only admired, but respected. Her presence offered both strength and reassurance, creating a sense of stability that the nation desperately needed as it faced war, political unrest, and social transformation. Her devotion to duty was matched only by her devotion to her family. Queen Mary was a mother who understood the importance of discipline, expecting her children to carry themselves with dignity and purpose. She instilled in them the values she believed were essential for royal life: composure, service, and sacrifice. Yet despite her strictness, she was deeply emotional and profoundly loyal. Her letters reveal a woman who cared intensely for her children, even when she struggled to express affection in a modern, outward way. Her approach created a balance between warmth and structure, shaping the personalities of future kings and queens. Mary's influence on her son, the future King George VI, played a crucial role in preparing him for the challenges he would later face as a reluctant monarch during the Second World War. Her teachings ensured that even in moments of national fear, the royal family would reflect calm strength. Queen Mary's public role became especially vital during the First World War. As Britain endured unimaginable suffering, the royal family needed to reflect the courage and endurance of its people. Mary took this responsibility seriously. She visited hospitals, factories, shelters, and charitable organizations, offering comfort to the wounded and hope to those devastated by loss. She supported the establishment of the Queen Mary's Needlework Guild, which provided clothing and supplies for soldiers and prisoners of war. She encouraged women across the nation to contribute, creating a sense of unity and purpose at a time when morale was fragile. To the people, she became a symbol of solidarity, a queen who did not simply observe hardship from afar, but stepped into the heart of it. Her presence uplifted spirits, and her steady composure reminded the nation that the monarchy shared its burdens. Behind palace walls, her influence was equally powerful. Queen Mary was a guardian of royal history, culture, and tradition. She believed that the monarchy's identity depended on its connection to the past, and she dedicated herself to preserving royal artifacts, restoring palaces, and collecting items that told the story of Britain's heritage. Her efforts ensured that the visual and cultural legacy of the monarchy would survive for future generations. She understood that symbols held meaning, especially during times of uncertainty. The objects she protected became reminders of continuity, anchoring the present in a rich and meaningful lineage. In this way, she strengthened the monarchy's cultural foundation at a time when many royal families across Europe were disappearing. Yet Queen Mary was not merely a figure of tradition. She was also a master of adaptation. She recognized that public expectations were changing, and she helped guide the monarchy into a new era of visibility. She supported the increased use of photography, public tours, and ceremonial events that gave the public a closer connection to the royal family. Her ability to balance modernity with tradition kept the monarchy relevant without sacrificing its dignity. This delicate blend became a defining feature of the House of Windsor, shaping its evolution throughout the 20th century. In her personal life, Queen Mary demonstrated extraordinary resilience. She endured hardship, loss, and immense pressure with quiet strength. From the relationship between King George V and Queen Mary was one of the most stabilizing forces in the history of the British monarchy. Their marriage was not born out of romance alone, but of duty, respect, and mutual purpose. From the moment they became husband and wife, their partnership evolved into a symbol of endurance, unity, and shared responsibility. George, a man of few words but strong convictions, found in Mary a counterpart who complemented his temperament with wisdom and calm authority. She understood the weight of the crown and shared his deep sense of obligation to uphold its dignity. Their relationship was not defined by outward displays of affection, but by quiet loyalty and unspoken understanding. Together, they faced immense challenges that tested not just their reign, but the very survival of the monarchy itself. Through war, social upheaval, and personal loss, their union became the anchor that steadied the British crown in an uncertain age. Their partnership functioned on an unshakable foundation of duty. They shared a belief that the monarchy existed for the people, not for personal indulgence or grandeur. Both were products of an era that valued restraint, discipline, and honor, and they embodied these values in their daily lives. King George admired Mary's composure and intelligence, often seeking her counsel in matters both political and personal. She, in turn, respected his integrity and steadfastness. Behind the formal public image, there existed a deep companionship built on trust and shared purpose. Their communication was sincere and grounded in a sense of mutual respect, allowing them to navigate the pressures of royal life with unity rather than division. The trials of the First World War would bring them closer than ever. As Europe was engulfed in bloodshed, they stood as symbols of hope and endurance. The war touched them personally. Family members were fighting on both sides, and the horrors of conflict entered their own home through letters, reports, and the wounded soldiers they visited. Together, they faced the mounting public criticism of their German ancestry and the resentment directed at the royal family during a time of immense national sacrifice. Yet instead of retreating from public view, they chose to face their people. They visited hospitals, military camps, and bombed neighborhoods, offering words of encouragement and comfort. Their unity during those visits, their presence side by side among the suffering, showed the world that the monarchy was not detached from the pain of its people. In those moments, their marriage became not just a personal bond, but a living representation of resilience. Behind closed doors, Queen Mary was the emotional center of the royal household. She provided George with quiet reassurance during moments of doubt and fatigue. His temperament could be severe, shaped by a strict upbringing and a deep sense of responsibility, but she understood him completely. She managed the household with precision, ensuring that every aspect of royal life reflected dignity and order. Her presence gave George the stability he needed to carry the burden of kingship. Their evenings together were often spent reading, discussing political affairs, or sharing moments of quiet reflection. They found comfort in routine and in each other's unwavering reliability. Theirs was not a marriage of grand gestures, but of endurance, of two individuals bound together by a shared understanding of what was expected of them. Their partnership was also defined by mutual respect for the institution they represented. Both recognized that their personal desires could never come before their duty to the crown. They understood that their marriage was not just a union of two people, but a symbol for the entire nation. They carried themselves with restraint and formality, maintaining a sense of mystery and distance that kept the aura of monarchy alive. Yet those who knew them intimately spoke of their quiet affection and the deep loyalty that connected them. Their devotion to each other reflected their devotion to the monarchy itself. When personal tragedies struck, such as the loss of their son or the turmoil within their family, they faced them with strength and composure. Their shared grief deepened their bond, rather than weakening it. Queen Mary's emotional resilience balanced George's stern resolve, creating harmony even in the darkest times. The public saw a king and queen who never faltered, and that image became a source of inspiration during moments of national hardship. Their relationship set the standard for royal conduct, proving that unity at the top could foster unity throughout the realm. As years passed, the world around them changed rapidly. New technologies, political reforms, and social movements reshaped Britain, but the strength of their partnership remained constant. They adapted quietly, ensuring that the monarchy evolved without losing its core values. Their marriage embodied the discipline and stability that would become hallmarks of the House of Windsor. It was through their bond that the royal family found its model for public service and personal integrity. Their relationship, though rooted in tradition, carried the monarchy safely into the modern era, preserving the trust of the people and setting a lasting example of what it means to serve with devotion, humility, and strength. The creation of the House of Windsor was one of the most defining moments in royal history, a transformation born out of necessity, symbolism, and strategy. By 1917, the First World War had torn through Europe, and the British monarchy found itself facing a crisis of identity. King George V, though a devoted ruler, was tied by blood to Germany's royal family, and anti-German sentiment was spreading rapidly through Britain. The royal family's original name, the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, suddenly became a liability, representing the very enemy Britain was fighting. The king understood the gravity of perception. He knew that if the crown was to survive, it had to stand with the people, not above them. It was a moment of decision that would define not only his reign, but the future of the monarchy. With determination and clarity, George made a bold move. He renounced his family's German titles and declared a new royal identity, the House of Windsor. The name was not chosen lightly. It carried centuries of English history, tied to Windsor Castle, the royal residence that had stood as a symbol of British strength since medieval times. The announcement marked more than a name change. It was a complete rebranding of the monarchy. By adopting the name Windsor, George V severed the monarchy's visible ties to foreign dynasties and re-established it as unmistakably British. The act was both political and emotional, a gesture of loyalty to his people during a time of sacrifice and suffering. Newspapers celebrated the decision, and the public, who had grown weary of German connections, embraced their king's choice with renewed respect. The transformation signaled that the monarchy was willing to evolve to protect its place in the nation's heart. It showed that adaptability, not stubbornness, was the key to survival. The British monarchy, once viewed as an extension of European aristocracy, became distinctly national in identity, and this reinvention would secure its relevance for generations to come. Queen Mary stood firmly beside the king during this pivotal moment. Her deep understanding of tradition and symbolism helped guide the process with care and precision. She knew that names carried history, that the way the monarchy presented itself mattered as much as its actions. Mary's influence ensured that the transition was conducted with dignity and strength. Behind the scenes, she managed the emotional and social adjustments that came with such a transformation, helping the royal family accept the new identity not as a loss, but as a renewal. She shared her husband's vision that monarchy was not a relic of the past, but a living institution that had to grow with the times. Her support reinforced his resolve, turning what could have been seen as an act of desperation into a display of unity and leadership. The shift to the House of Windsor also reflected a deeper change in how the royal family connected with the British people. George and Mary wanted to close the distance between the crown and its subjects. They appeared more frequently in public, opened royal residences, and participated in events that showcased solidarity with ordinary citizens. During wartime, they visited hospitals, factories, and military bases, showing empathy and shared endurance. Their humility and consistency helped re-establish public faith in the monarchy, at a time when other royal families across Europe were collapsing under the pressure of war and revolution. The British monarchy endured because it transformed itself into a symbol of national unity rather than imperial dominance. The name Windsor became synonymous with resilience, continuity, and service. The decision to adopt an English name also had a lasting psychological effect. It created a sense of ownership among the British people, who began to see the monarchy not as foreign-born rulers, but as one of their own. The connection between the crown and the nation deepened, and this unity became a cornerstone of British identity throughout the 20th century. The House of Windsor was not just a new title. It was a promise that the monarchy would stand for Britain in both its triumphs and its trials. King George's foresight ensured that the crown would remain not only respected but loved, its authority drawn not from divine right but from national loyalty. The transformation also demonstrated George's awareness of the power of modern communication. He understood that the monarchy's image needed to be managed carefully in an age of newspapers, photography, and global. The legacy of King George V and Queen Mary extends far beyond their reign, echoing through every generation of the royal family that followed them. Their vision for the monarchy was not one of grandeur and excess, but of stability, duty, and moral strength. They understood that power in the modern world was not sustained through fear or divine right, but through trust, service, and connection with the people. At a time when monarchies across Europe were collapsing under the weight of war and revolution, George and Mary redefined what it meant to be royal. They transformed the crown from an imperial institution into a national symbol, one rooted in identity and continuity. Their reign established the foundation upon which all modern British monarchs would build. The belief that the survival of the monarchy depended not on privilege, but on purpose. George V's reign was marked by a profound sense of discipline and responsibility. He approached kingship not as a luxury, but as a lifelong obligation. His demeanor was serious, often austere, but it commanded respect. He insisted that the royal family remain above politics, serving as a unifying force for a nation that was becoming increasingly divided by class, ideology, and change. His example created a blueprint for future monarchs. A sovereign must not seek popularity, but trust, not applause, but faith. He made the monarchy dependable in an age of uncertainty, embodying the very steadiness that his people craved. Queen Mary's presence beside him reinforced this stability. She personified grace under pressure and demonstrated that the crown could represent empathy as well as authority. Her influence balanced his sternness, adding warmth and humanity to the image of monarchy. Their commitment to the idea of service shaped the behavior of every royal generation that followed. King George VI inherited his father's sense of duty and his mother's quiet courage, leading Britain through the darkness of the Second World War. The sense of calm strength that he projected was a direct reflection of their guidance. Later, Queen Elizabeth II, their granddaughter, embodied the same principles, dedicating her life to service in a way that mirrored their example. Through her, the values of George and Mary, discipline, humility, endurance, became the defining spirit of the House of Windsor. Even in moments of controversy or change, the royal family continued to draw upon the foundations they had laid. Their legacy proved that monarchy could remain relevant in the modern age if it adapted without surrendering its integrity. King George and Queen Mary's influence also transformed the monarchy's relationship with the British people. Before their time, royal life had been distant and ceremonial, separated from ordinary existence by layers of protocol. They changed that by embracing a quieter, more visible form of leadership. Their public appearances were deliberate and sincere, designed not for spectacle but for reassurance. During times of hardship, they positioned the monarchy as part of the nation's shared experience, not a world apart from it. This approach created a bond of loyalty that endured long after their deaths. The people saw them as guardians of continuity, figures who embodied both tradition and compassion. This emotional connection became one of the monarchy's most powerful tools of survival. The House of Windsor they created became more than a royal lineage. It became a symbol of British endurance. Its image, shaped by their values, carried the nation through wars, political shifts, and societal evolution. The monarchy's strength in the 20th and 21st centuries can be traced directly to the groundwork laid by George and Mary. Their reign taught that the crown's power lies not in control but in representation, not in ruling over people but in standing with them. Their legacy also included a quiet moral message that leadership is measured not by wealth or privilege, but by constancy and sacrifice. They also preserved a cultural legacy that continues to define British identity. Queen Mary's dedication to history and preservation ensured that the royal heritage would remain intact for future generations. Through her efforts to collect and protect royal artifacts, she maintained the visual and emotional continuity of the monarchy. King George's insistence on maintaining strong ties with the Commonwealth and former colonies helped shape the post-imperial identity of Britain, allowing the crown to evolve from an empire's symbol into a global one. Together, they bridged the past and the future, carrying centuries of tradition into the modern world with dignity and grace. Their story is not only about the endurance of a royal family, but about the endurance of values that transcend time. Duty, loyalty, service, and faith in one's role. These became the pillars of the House of Windsor because of George and Mary. They demonstrated that even in an age of upheaval, tradition could survive if it adapted to the spirit of the times. Their legacy remains visible in every royal ceremony, in every act of service, and in the quiet dignity with which their descendants continue to lead. The monarchy they shaped stands as a reflection of their vision, a living reminder that strength is found not in power, but in purpose. The story of King George V and Queen Mary is not just a royal chronicle. It is a testament to endurance, loyalty, and transformation. Together, they took the monarchy from the twilight of empire into the dawn of modernity, reshaping it into an institution built on service rather than supremacy. In an age of uncertainty, they gave the people stability. In times of despair, they offered dignity. Their legacy is the House of Windsor itself, a dynasty born from duty, tested by war, and preserved by character. They taught that true greatness does not lie in crowns or titles, but in the courage to lead with conviction and humility. Their spirit continues to echo through every generation of the royal family, reminding the world that honor endures long after power fades, and that the strength of a nation begins with the strength of its example. You said,